Cory was out that day, so it was me, Benny, and Ollie in the studio. I took the day off of work, and we ended up just the two of us kind of working through.
Wait, so was Ollie engineering you?
Yes, that actually happened.
Does no one remember I was left by myself with Pro Tools, which I've never used before, to engineer myself?
This doesn't surprise me.
Ben's got shit to do. Can't be engineering this entire.
He's like, all right, you seem like you've got this.
Hey, you flew across the country. You can do this too. Why not? I gotta go answer this email.
He had to go get shredded at the gym, so he's like, hey, press this button and then this button. And Ollie was like, I can do that. So,
all right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome again to 2020. I'm Siobhán Cronin here with my cohorts, and we have a surprise additional cohort introducing himself on the episode. But first, Cory Peza and Benny Goodman. Hey, guys.
Hey.
And our guest this week, back for part 2, he did his introduction also for part 1, Matthew LaPierre of Lost Symphony, 3 years gone, studio musician, guitarist extraordinaire, composer, sculptor that we learned in the first episode, artist. Matt, introduce yourself.
Hockey player.
Can't really do any better than that. I mean,
fucking hockey.
I've learned a lot of tricks from Benny. Of course, he didn't say... Not a hat trick. Okay. But instead of telling me that I did a good introduction, he reminded me that I forgot hockey. So I'm sorry. Also hockey player.
That's yeah. I mean, I try and do as much as I can. Stay out of trouble.
We'll hear.
I feel like that's total horse shit.
Anyway, for everyone listening, don't forget to go to 2020-d.com, like and subscribe. Go to the YouTube channel. If you're not watching the video cast, get the fuck on it.
And LostSymphony.com. And hopefully Adrenaline Media and our PR people have told Jackson Charvel that they should know that they should be hosting this about Matthew LaPierre, because if you guys have not heard this guy play in his own band, nevertheless, LostSymphony.com, you need to go check it out because he is ferocious.
The ferocious Matt LaPierre, part 2 on 2020 right now. Hello and welcome to another episode of 2020. My name is Cory Peza. I'm here as always with my cohorts in crime, Siobhán Cronin.
Hey, how's it going, Cory?
Not too bad. Looks like you have another special guest there with you.
We have a special guest who is nonverbal, Pino the dog.
That's all right. We have enough verbal people on this.
The staring is fantastic.
And someone who is definitely verbal, Benny Goodman.
Hi.
Who is, yeah.
What the
What just
I was holding my breath the whole time. To let out that bong rip.
He was like praying that you would introduce him first.
You're going to introduce the dog. I'm not even going to expel smoke.
Was that?
Anyways, turning blue, man.
that was a very. It's still. I think that gave our listeners and viewers a very good picture of what to expect from you
of what's about
for the
to
next
happen.
hour.
Right.
And back with us for a second hour, Lost Symphony guitarist, a good friend, Matt LaPierre. How's it going, man?
What's up, man?
And, he didn't leave us yet, so this is good news.
He's stuck around. Has not reached through the screen to strangle Ben yet. We will see how this
I think the screen
goes.
is the only thing stopping him at this point.
But if you have not
Bloodlust, I'll figure it out.
Yeah, if you have not yet listened to our previous
incoming
episode.
news from Marty Friedman. I just wanted to let you know on air. Hey, Cory. Hope you're well. I should be shooting your video. Your video?
Damn
Are
right.
you reading emails?
Marty, what the fuck? Now, this is his actual email right now, 8:43 p.m., whatever time it is in Japan. I will be shooting your video tomorrow or the next day. I have your notes here. What fucking notes, Cory? So I should be fine.
Me and Marty had,
but if you have any requests before I
They're
lay
just
it
throwing
down,
out via email.
hold on.
It's real casual.
What is he, a
Friedman.
fucking rat now? Please let me know. Thanks! Exclamation point. Marty.
Tell Marty I'll get back to him when I have a minute. All right. Yes.
Would you like me to?
I'm surprised
do
he
not
even
tell
copied
Marty
me on that.
Because I'll be like, Cory is currently on the air, but he says, tell Marty I will get back to him in a minute.
Do not tell Marty anything.
Marty will sit there and be like, it's been more than a minute. I counted.
Anyways, thank you everyone for indulging us on that.
Yeah, like no
again,
context, randomly reading an email on our show. So there we go.
So
we just
Marty.
lost 10 people.
Actually, I think at this point, if you're listening to this show, then the video he's talking about should be released. So enjoy that. We'll post a link below.
So on this date, he hadn't recorded it yet.
Yes, exactly.
Well, and if he does anything stupid, it's probably because Cory requested it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Anyways.
So we'll blame Cory.
Anyway, back to the
Why
topic
not?
at hand.
Yes.
Our wonderful guest, Matt LaPierre. Cory, go on.
Yes, joining us for a second hour. If you have not yet watched his first hour, kind of learn a little bit about your backstory and how you got into music. Learn a few things that I didn't even know. We've known you for years. You're apparently a sculptor. That's a thing.
Who's your biggest influence as a sculptor?
Don't really have anyone specific. Just kind of was just freeform, whatever.
Freeform?
Do you have any of your old sculptures, like stuff that you've built or made? I guess what's the proper
not
term?
Around.
Not. Oh no, you're not. I don't. I'm just wondering if you still have them, since it's probably been a while, or do you still do any of this?
I have most of my like drawings and sketches and stuff along those lines, but I think some of my is DeviantArt still a thing?
I don't
Maybe.
know.
That might not have been any of your scene.
It was not. No.
Yeah. So that was.
Can you describe it? What is it?
So DeviantArt was just like, it was like almost MySpace for artsy types.
Oh, okay.
So basically you put your sort of portfolio, or you put different pieces up, and all of it that's on there now is like super dated, but just a bunch of like pencil sketches and stuff along those lines.
Matt,
So it's like the original social media for art.
I hate to break it to you, but MySpace, they burned down and they lost all the files. They're gone.
Oh, I know. All my buddies' old bands, we can't even listen to those terrible.
They're gone.
Like,
all of my pictures from college gone.
Where you think that it was backed up forever to the cloud?
I never had a MySpace.
Me neither.
I skipped that. I joined Facebook.
Do you think
like,
there's someone in Japan that's like, I one day shall bring back MySpace and I shall have all the recordings?
Hey, we just got canceled. Awesome.
God.
So I don't even know where we are yet. But anyways, there was a previous episode. Make sure you watch that.
Makes
Learn about
two
Matt.
of us. I don't know where I am either. That's fucking crazy, dude.
You're back to your normal
In
self
this-
in this episode. You were kind of like demure the first one, and now you've smoked enough that you've recovered your
Yeah,
personality.
now he's
Sedate
back to
for a
actually
little
being
bit.
himself.
Right. For better or worse.
In this hour, I want to talk about kind of what you're up to now. You have another project called 3 Years Gone. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So me and my buddy Pat's been doing the singer-songwriter thing for a while. He's also the Big Scary Man guy. For anyone from Boston, you definitely know who he is. He's loud, and he's the Viking at all the Bruins games. So we met through some of my hockey buddies. We were just going to a Bruins game, and he's like, hey, you should check out some of Pat's music. And Pat's like, oh, it's not any good, whatever. He shows it to me, and actually one of the songs we're re-recording right now with Cory, Stay a While. If you haven't checked that out, that's actually the name of the album that he released originally under his name, Patrick Kearns. And everything that I heard on it, I definitely thought it had potential. I thought, he's got a great voice. So he was like, hey, we should work on music sometime. And I was like, oh yeah, definitely. And this is when I was in the thick of all that, working, 6 jobs and having no time to really breathe. So we ended up playing it was like a show at, what is that dive bar in Worcester?
You have to be more specific than that.
Lucky Dog.
I know, there's plenty of them.
The Lucky Dog.
I just
Tammany
remember-
Hall.
Was it the one we went to
No.
before our
Tammany
show?
Hall. Lucky
Oh, yeah.
Dog. The Lucky Dog.
Ralph's Rock Diner.
Ralph's Diner, bro.
Yep, with the dried puke on the monitors. That was
Oh, that sounds horrible.
That's
great.
That sounds like it's a good rock venue.
no, it's a great. They used to have metal. I think it was Metal Thursdays there. But yeah, so it was
metal every day there.
It was, except for we played up. So he hit me up. He's like, hey, my friend wants me to play her birthday party, and I need another guitar player. And everyone was telling me that you're pretty good. And I was like, I'm okay. So I showed up, and we had one practice. It went really well. We both love Tenacious D and a bunch of those ridiculous songs. So we ended up doing a full set, and it went really well. And then life happened, and I was super busy. So we never really did anything after that. That was about 3 years ago, hence 3 years gone.
Oh, okay.
And then we ended up reconnecting Yeah, we ended up
Clever.
reconnecting. It was probably about a year or two ago.
Was this
And-
after MySpace, or did you connect through MySpace? Was he
For
in your
sure,
top
it
10?
was we did everything through MySpace. We're still recording this album through MySpace. Via
Wait, so
Cory.
is Justin
But,
Timberlake on it?
Oh yeah,
Because I would
JT.
love it, dude.
we call him JT, but you whatever. So anyway, we started, working on some songs and playing just acoustic shows. We were originally called for acoustic nights. We were Acoustic Penetration.
Nice.
So, and they booked us. I don't know.
Hold
why.
on. Can I ask you something, though? Because it's something
ahead.
conceptual about the band. Because the
Mm.
name of the record is Stay Around for a while, right?
No.
That was Pat's
stay
album.
a while. Yeah.
Stay a while,
Stay a
right?
while.
So
Yes.
as a listener, like let's say I don't even want to be here for this moment. Why would I want to stay for even a minute, never less a while?
I don't know what to tell you. If you like the
Well, what
music,
is it?
you
What
can
did
stick
he?
around.
What does he
If
say?
not, what?
Well, what acoustic penetration?
Acoustic Penetration, we did cover songs and at like local bars and made people uncomfortable while they ate their food. So,
you lubed them up with your acoustic penetration.
That's
or was
what
there
we
no
did.
lube?
No comment. Anyway,
What kind of songs? Wait, hold on. What kind of songs did you play with your acoustic penetration gig?
So we did everything from we actually did The Darkness, a thing called Love, which was hilarious. A bunch of Tenacious D songs.
But in the style of
Nice.
Tenacious D?
No, like I full on played a thing called Love on acoustic. But we Backstreet Boys, just about anything that people wanted. Modest Mouse, we played a little bit of everything, stuff that people like, and we just kept getting booked because we would always pack the place out. And
You have a new appreciation for the
Bard liked
Killers.
it. Yeah, I actually just learned how to play that for a
That's
show.
a hard riff, right?
last week.
That's not easy, bro. That one's a mind fucker. You're like, all right. Like, I guess if this is going to be the song forever, like, dude, you
Yeah.
did
Well, it's
something.
like playing Twister with your hands. To play that intro.
Yeah,
lick
it's dumb.
Oh, Mr. Brightside, or
Yeah.
Mr.
Oh, yeah.
Brightside.
Yeah,
Is it dumb?
it's an infamously simple sounding yet difficult.
Right, sure.
Yeah, but is
Try
it
to
dumb, though?
simplify
Because
the
I'm
hell
going
out
to
of
tell
that
you,
riff.
I'm going to tell you that as a person that's played hundreds of weddings as a DJ, hundreds, and as a band even as well, nothing is like the if you need to pull out all stops, if you need to know how dead in the water you really are, wherever you are, whenever you are, wherever you may be, whatever the scenario is, the Killers transcends all space and time.
Yeah.
And if people
I feel
don't
like every
respond well to that,
generation
then
They all love it.
there's something
Right.
off color, and you may not be able to control it.
That Sugar We're Going Down by Fall Out Boy always gets people going.
Yeah.
And Ocean
Stacey's
Avenue by
mom.
Yellow Card.
Stacy's mom, dude.
Stacy's mom. There's a ton of those that just, as soon as you start playing it, people lose their mind. So, it's always the drunk people in the front that are just like, oh, it's happening. Like, and they're singing in your face and you can smell the booze. I got punched.
Yeah.
Actually, the first show we played at this place, Southside Tavern, I got
In
punched
Quincy,
twice.
kid.
No, I was in Braintree, but I got punched
Whatever.
twice by a drunk chick dancing mid
What does
playing
it
and
mean?
singing.
What do you mean dancing?
He was basically just flailing around, and I got
Oh,
spinning
gotcha.
back fist to the
Okay.
face twice.
Perfect.
And she went and heaved in the parking lot, which was great. So classy.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Sounds
playing
like
bar games.
Braintree would do.
Yeah. It's a lovely town.
So, at what point did you shift from doing the covers and the bar gigs to coming up and wanting to do like an album and actually release as a band?
So that was definitely more Pat than me. I mean, as most of you know, I'm not really a band guy. I like doing session work because there's less drama with everything, and I get paid. So it's that's kind of my wheelhouse. But I mean, me and Pat are such good friends that it was one of those things where I'm like, I can't say no. So when we were hanging out, he had a bunch of songs. He's always writing, and he's, as Cory knows, he's great with writing hooks.
He is, yeah.
Vocal hooks. It's one of those things where I'm like, all right, fine, I'll play on this song. Like it's you can't say no when I'm like, all right, now it's stuck in my head and it's not even recorded yet. So this is great. And so just hanging out, he would just show me, hey, I have this idea. And it's usually, you know, simple cowboy chords, your, you know, G, C, A minor, D, you know, and I'd have to come up with something over it or some sort of melody. And as they started to pile up, we would play them. We would kind of like sprinkle them into those acoustic sets. And I think it was last summer, right before all the, you know, when COVID started like lifting a little bit, people were like, oh, you can go outside again. He's like, hey man, we should record an album. I was like, okay, what are you thinking? I originally was just going to be an acoustic EP and that was it. But, the more he got into it, the more he was like, no, I want to go full blown, you know, full band, everything, all the stops. Let's go. And
did you have any songs already written, or was that like the start of the process? Like,
yeah, we had a bunch
stuff?
of them.
Okay.
Yeah, we had a bunch of them ready to go. Like I said, he would show me some stuff and I would write riffs to it or little lead lines and try and figure out the harmonies. And then that spiraled out of control. We'll get into that at some point. But yeah, so we went in and we were going to actually record with his buddy, Cory. He had a prior engagement. So I was like, well, I know Cory. And
oh, funny.
Cory.
Yeah, it's those Corys, man. And, you know, I brought him down and he was nervous because this would be his first time really, like, he did an album before this, but it wasn't exactly like the same vibe, I would say. He was, you know, he's super nervous where he's got me and Cory, who I've spoken super highly of, and he knows about Lost Symphony. And was just like, I don't know if I can do all this stuff. Like, I'm an acoustic guy at the bar. Like, that's what I do. And I'm like, you're going to be fine. You got a good voice and you know what you're doing. So we went down and we started. Cory, do you remember what the first one was? Was it 100 proof? I think it was 100 proof.
Yeah. Yep.
And he just, you know, went through, banged out the vocals and acoustics and was just like, oh, this wasn't that bad. I'm like, yeah, now we got to do this for 8 more songs. So,
right. Yeah, what I can say about the band, I'm working with you guys and producing the songs. You know, that's one of the nice things. You know, you don't like doing the band thing, Matt. So you guys can kind of just come in. You know, you have your parts, you do what you need to do, and then what I really like about you guys, you work like 1 or 2 nights a week for like 2 hours. So the fact that I have no time whatsoever just absolutely plays into that hand perfectly. But it's great. You guys came in. You had, you know, amazing songs. They're super catchy. It's a side of you that I hadn't seen before, because you're essentially like, you guys do the, you know, you're the lead guitarist. Like, you guys are doing like the 80s thing almost, where you have like the vocalist and the star lead guitarist, and the stuff you play is much different than Lost Symphony, but very tasty. Yeah. You guys have kind of like a pop country, like icing over a very rock and roll vibe. And that's super fun to work on, you know, and so we get to make those big productions, and the stuff you guys are coming with, it's catchy as hell. And then, you know, like I said in the first episode, I kind of teased it, but, you know, you and Pat singing together is a very big kind of unique aspect of this band, because it's not just a singer with like kind of harmonies. You guys have a much more gelled performance together. It's got like kind of almost an Alice in Chains vibe at times, where the backing vocals are sometimes just as important as the main vocals. How did that style come about?
I think that was your fault.
I know. I was like, Cory's selling this so well. I'm wondering if he was part of this creative process.
That totally sounds like something Cory would do. Like, hey, I know you think you're the lead singer, but like this other guy in your band, he should probably sing a lot too. And I'm going to tell him how to be better. And if that's a problem with you, then like we're probably not going to be making the best record, because he empowers people.
Yeah, Pat is an amazing vocalist, and he is very, very in touch with Matt's abilities, and he pushes Matt to do as much as he can, whether Matt likes it or not. And
so,
I'm
so
there
we get
just
to hear some
someone
silly
else on
town
this
shit,
call.
Matt. Like, we get to hear some ham and eggs. Is it eggs Benedict? Do I get to cut it over my toast and like watch all the yolk come out?
Like I said, it's definitely a departure for me, having to do all these harmonies. And I think it actually started because with 100 Proof, when we would do it live, I figured out the harmonies for the chorus, and Pat was like, that's great. And then you were just like, yeah, we're going to do that on every song. I was like, oh. And then when it was the 3 parters where I'm going to have to sing way outside of my range, which is great.
Higher.
They're struggling.
Higher.
That's something that Ben and I have worked on multiple songs, and I think that we both are always trying to get whoever's working with us, whoever's singing, to sing just a little higher than they can actually sing, because it just sounds so good.
Well, I don't do it because it sounds so good. I watched the Mutt Lange Def Leppard special on VH1, and they were actually in the studio. And they were doing whatever the first recording was, and he was like, "No, I want you to sing it high." I was like, "I can't sing that high." He's like, "But you're going to do it anyway."
That's
and
Cory.
Then he got,
That's 100% Cory. He's like, all right.
And then Def Leppard sold millions of records.
No, but I think that's what fundamentally makes a great producer. Is just like pushing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a huge part of it, is like, recognizing what someone might be able to do and pushing them to that limit. That's where the magic is, right?
Also,
but where do we draw the line?
Another scene from that movie.
When he's pushing me to the point where I'm breaking, and then
one of the best parts of that entire movie. We can't talk about the Def Leppard Mutt Lange movie if we don't talk about the pivotal sequence.
Were we even talking about that? I think you were talking about that. We were having a conversation.
Because they're sitting there and they're listening back to what Mutt has now put together for them, and they start talking over it, and Mutt just goes, "Listening." And they're like, "But wait," he's like, "Listening, type." He's like, "But wait a minute." Listening.
I gotta take a cue from that. That's like every session at your studio, Ben. I'm like, what? I'm trying to listen, and it's just
what?
What? It's exactly that.
Pretty much, yeah. But there's a certain line. I feel like Cory he's a little sadistic when it comes to, he's just like, you know what? I'm just gonna see how far I can push it. We already got the take. Let's just keep going.
Oh, that is a Cory thing too.
You never know if the next
highlight reel of me sounding like I have Tourette's, just swearing like a sailor.
Cory, you need to dial it in all the way to Marty Friedman at some point, and just when people send you stuff, just instead of just being casually mean like you are, just be like, "There's literally nothing about this that's salvageable."
I am never mean.
And then send back a completely different song.
He's
be
not
like,
mean.
"You wanted jazz? Here's classical. Do
he
this
tricked
instead."
Me into doing this multiple times, and I'm just there suffering. And Pat is in tears, and he's cracking up, and I'm just in there I told him I was going to buy him that door you can see by that acoustic. I was going to punch 3 holes through it. And he said, no. And I said, okay.
He's reformed himself.
I'll build you a new door. But
like you said, Matt, music is supposed to be fun, and I have a lot of fun listening to you try to hit a G3 up there.
It was a G4, wasn't it?
A G4.
I can't wait to hear all this stuff, man. This sounds really cool.
Yeah.
No, but this is great. I mean, to find that magic though with a partner in music that you guys can really work off each other when working with a producer. I mean, I feel like that's much more rare than people think, to just hit it off like that and everything just kind of, you're pushed to some limits, but
I will say that Matt, you and Pat have a great dynamic, and it definitely comes through in the music. And the music's, like I said, it's very unique in the fact that you're clearly trying to do something that's accessible to a lot of people. And that's catchy and fun, but your influences bleed through it all over. There's some crazy guitar stuff, even though it's not shreddy. There's some really interesting guitar parts. And
are you like Zakk Wylde if he was still trying to be like Zakk Wylde in 1991?
With this project, no, I wouldn't say so.
So more like Book of Shadows.
Book of Shadows.
That's awesome. Good. Stay in that book. Don't go to the next chapter.
If anything, I think if we do, I know Pat wants to do another album after this. We haven't even finished the first one, but probably go a little more, because again, he's generally the one writing these songs with, again, the 4-chord pop progression in his head, and I have to try and work with that and make it sound like not.
Isn't that liberating though? Because I find that for me is awesome, because one of the things I love about Paul, the drummer in Lost Symphony, is that he's super simple writer. He's like AC/DC school, but with a Beatles twist here and there. But 2-minute songs, 3-minute songs, the riff once done, like I'm out, like doesn't need to play on more than a 3-piece, a 4-piece, cool, 5 if he needs to. But like when he makes, but one of the things that I feel like has made me a better producer in working with him are taking a 3-chord song and then making it unique. And I think a guy like you're the one creating the harmonies and the leads and all the counterparts, because really every song, dude, like there are 10 million songs with those same chords. So what's going to make it distinct is going to be his voice, and then also what you choose to do with those chords and how you choose to rock them. You know, that 80% the motherfucker wielding it, and then also the notes that you choose or the notes that you don't choose to play. And I think that is really, really, really important for people to know. And I look forward to hearing it, man. I've been seeing all this stuff on Cory's Instagram and your Instagram. I'm like, okay, they're cheating on me. I'm like, what is he playing? It sounds awesome. Because I marvel at your ability in the studio, because you literally are like, you're like, oh, I need to do that. Okay, that tapping thing, I'm going to do the harmony. And you just nail these whole parts. And I'm just like, that was disgusting. I'm like, and Cory's like, I guess I'll fix it later. It's like, there's really not a whole lot of fixing I need to do. I guess I just need to like take the takes. And
yeah, I mean, that's, we try and get it in as few takes as possible. Sometimes there's a lot of Frankensteining, but
well, you've allowed us on, and we could talk about this. You've allowed us to, and Cory, you can speak to this too, because we've worked on solos where at different times Cory was engineering you and I was engineering you, and we were like throwing out ideas at you, and you were like, I felt at the time, at least with me, and I don't know, Cory can tell you, but like you were like resistant, and I'm like, no, dude, if you do this harmony, it's gonna be fucking ridiculous. You're like, really? And I'm like, yeah, dude. And I remember coming back and hearing what Cory had done, and I was like, dude, that's fucking insane. And you were just like, at the time, you're like, I don't know if I like that solo, and I'm like, you're out of your mind. Like, you literally, like, you made the idea that, like, Frank Zappa says, again, when I quote this all the time, and I love it, is that the best you could hope for is having people play what sounds exactly like what you hear in your head, and that almost never happens. And with you, when I've been able to yell, like, Charlie Brown's like, wah, 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 teacher at you, you're like, oh, play the Aeolian. Okay.
Yeah.
And you do it.
I will say that's one of the treats of working with you, Matt, in studio, is that, like, whereas Ben and I could sit there and like program like the ultimate lead, instead we can just have you do it, because it's all the things, it's the things that we wish, it's all the things we wish we could actually play on guitar, but we can't. So like, we're like, so what if you just did that like C minor arpeggio into that tapping part, like, but like double time, and you're like, oh, like this.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, I sweeped into it, but then I did the economy picking thing here, and then you're like moving your pick between your fingers. Hold on, I got it. Like, this is literally Matt when he plays. He's like, and then he like switches it. He's like, oh, it's in my other hand behind your ear. And then he's like, oh, I'm still tapping. I'm still doing.
And then you guys tell me to do a solo, and I'm like that meme of the lady with the math equations in the back.
Yeah, you don't even have frets, girl. No frets. Where we're going. We don't need frets.
Improvisation has been, thankfully, one of my...
Bumblefoot's like, yeah, dude, I don't need frets either. Fuck you. Figure.
Since we've had the chance, both Ben and I, to work with both of you, it's completely different, but amazing in both ways, because with you, Siobhán, it can be like, you know what, this line needs like a solid like fifth to run through it. And that's all you have to say, and bam, you can lay down that line and do it exactly how it needs to be done. Without a second
she's
thought.
like, no, that's underselling it. You are like the TC Helicon pedal harmonizer that you can put on that has like the intelligent harmony. And instead of like knowing, like, you know what mode.
No offense to TC, like, but that's like insulting to what she does.
I'm kidding. No, I'm just saying, but you know if you want to do the minor or the major seventh or the natural seventh, like, you always know that, and we don't have to tell you. Like, you're just like, well, yeah, that's exactly like you were building anticipation. Like, well, if you're going to do that cadence, like, you have a reason in your head already. So I don't even need to tell you anything. I'm just like, yeah, do a layer, do the next layer. And they're like, well, logically, the only thing you could do with that...
Meanwhile, my brain is exploding.
I mean, technically, if I was going to make an inversion of that, we could do that, but then the lead would be... All right, I guess we could do... And you do 3 more of those. Yeah. It's awesome.
Well, your brain's exploding. I'm threatening to rip doors off hinges, so I mean...
I just don't have the strength for that, so I think I just accept defeat, and I'm like, all right, this is what it's going to be.
All of that combined, both sides of the coin are what lead to what we ended up with Lost Symphony, which, it's why, if it was completely one or the other, I don't think it would be as special as it is. I think it's a good combination of that kind of like spark of the moment.
Can I tell you how awesome it is? I'm going to give you the best endorsement of this record ever.
Can you let me finish anything? I'm
sorry. Cory almost had a perfect sound bite. Almost a perfect sound bite.
Could have been dope.
You know what? Who cares? Just Lost Symphony.
LostSymphony.com.
It's only Ben's project.
All right, Ben, go on. The stage is yours.
Well, I was going to say that we got the best compliment this entire journey on this record. We had Steve Wood, who hopefully by the time this comes out will already have aired, who's such a great guy, and I love him, and he's going to come back, and he's just a wealth of information. But he listened to Lost Symphony, and he asked me last night, which I don't know, it's long ago for the people listening now, but he said, "Do you actually play on this?" And it was the greatest compliment ever. I'm like, I wrote the songs and recorded it and engineered it and yelled at the mixing guy all the time. And he's like, really? What do you play? The guitar. Like, he was surprised. Like, he played the guitar on the Lost Symphony, and I was like,
I played the Rolodex.
Pretty much. But the point is that he was completely enamored by the fact that I could even possibly have been on something that good in his mind, and I was like, wow, that's a compliment. Because literally, I always feel like I should be by far the worst, and for someone to think that I'm not even good enough to be in my own band makes me feel like I'm really good about the band. Especially when they're as esteemed and as experienced as someone like Steve Wood, who was there at the inception of Tom Petty's career and Led Zeppelin, and was watching Jimi Hendrix and Eric Clapton, and was with Jimmy Page when he, bought Joe Walsh's 1959 Les Paul. He was fucking
let's
there.
let people listen to that episode. Don't give away all the details.
That's not on an episode yet.
Oh, okay.
It's a bonus fact.
Bonus.
It's a bonus Easter egg.
Let's get back to Matt.
Yes.
So, as much as I love talking about Lost Symphony, of course, Matt, I'm curious to hear about you getting into session work and working in studios, and like, how did that whole thing start for you?
It actually started with, if I remember right, it was a Craigslist ad.
Back in the day.
Oh yeah, with this guy that had a studio. I think it was in Weymouth. I don't. This was probably 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, 10 years ago, you were 12. Stop talking.
Questionable age.
Was probably like 18, 19.
Cory's like, I have balsamic vinegar. That's older than you.
Anyway.
Okay.
But yeah, I ended up showing up, and he's like, I need someone to play leads over this track. And it was like I'm going to use the term butt rock, but like, it was like a butt rock project.
Yeah.
And he was just like, hey, and this is when I was, just figuring out like all the sweeping and stuff. And I was like, oh, I could do this little run. And he thought it was great. And then he started telling his buddies, and, I started looking into him like, oh, I can, because he paid me for the time. And I was like, huh, this isn't bad. I can do this. And it just kind of spiraled from there. Just, word of mouth, people who knew me, I've been told I'm easy to work with. So, whenever someone needed something done and relatively quick, or, was looking for ideas to bounce off.
I want to kill someone.
That's a separate thing.
But I'm saying you're very valuable. You're like the wolf. You could either help someone track a solo or bury someone in the desert.
Multifaceted, we'll call it.
But many sides.
many sides. But yeah, so I started doing that, and it was mostly like, you'd get your standard rock bands, like local rock bands or blues bands, or nothing too crazy. And then the more people I got to know, the more projects I got to play on. And, via word of mouth, like I said, I would get contacted by, friends of friends. And then, after being in that, the gospel, the gospel band, and then the jazz project, and having all these different connections, got to actually, dip my toes into doing some jazz tracks or some country tracks, or, and trying to cut my teeth and like learn all these different styles, and, getting to where I am now, where, if someone's like, hey, I need, play this, I need a bebop lick over this. Okay, yeah, I got you. Or, hey, play this like really twangy country kind of lead. And, there's plenty of that kind of stuff on 3 Years Gone. And I mean, there's still a lot of rock.
Doesn't sound like you're asking for anything that Kirk Hammett can't do.
Just throw a wah pedal on it and it's great.
He's got a B-bender.
The
Unforgiven 2, have you not heard that? Or is that James?
James plays
I
the
think
B-bender.
maybe that's James. That's above Kirk's pay grade. I should know better.
But yeah, anyway, it's just, that's how I got into doing session work. And then when the internet became more prevalent as to like a way to communicate with people, obviously like there was MySpace and all that stuff back when I was first starting, but now where you can have things like this with Zoom, where, you got a client that's like, hey, I have this random, pop song. Can you play some jazz chords over it? Or can you play, they're like, oh, they always call them jazz chords. It's always sevenths or like an
right.
A9.
Something that isn't strictly dive.
I was going to ask very importantly, because I talk about jazz chords a lot and then they make fun of me. When someone says play jazz chords, do you mean sevenths and ninths? Because I say that a lot of the time, and then occasionally a 13th.
Those are pop jazz chords.
Yeah.
Yep.
Until you get into like the sharp 5, sharp 9.
Yeah.
Listen, Brubeck. I'll give you Brubeck.
Take 5
to your fucking Brock, where you came from. So
anyway.
Suck it.
Yeah. But yeah, with the session work, it's nice being able to wear different hats and, play in different styles and fool people into thinking that I'm competent in all these styles, when in reality, I have my go-to.
No, but I think when you're in a situation where you have to record a lot, it does make you a much cleaner player. Like the more that I've had to do studio work or just like remote recordings and stuff, I feel like it's really made my playing a lot more precise, because Siobhán, you just get what?
Having a 4K lens on you and 96 kilohertz of sound quality at the full spectrum of hearing encourages you with pressure to do better than you would do when you wouldn't normally think that Alexa's listening or anyone else is watching, or your computer
it's not
screen.
the idea that anyone's listening. It's that when you have the chance to hear back what you sound like versus what you thought you sounded like when you were playing.
Tape.
If you're in the studio, you're naked.
But what if you hate yourself from the beginning and you already know it's terrible? But you're like, you don't even need to do it. You're like, I don't even have to record this to know how I'm going to feel about it afterwards. That's the thing.
Well, if I don't feel like I did a good enough job, I'll do it again, even if it's over the time slot that I'm
Jimmy Bell, every time we worked on Lost Symphony, would call me after we recorded, and he gave us more tracks and takes and we could possibly Frankenstein together. We're like, Cory would call me like, do you want to use take 67 or take 54? I'm like, I don't know, which one's which? He's like, dude, they're both fucking stupid. Like, he'd be like, Benny, are you sure we got it? Are you sure we got? I'm like, Jimmy, we had it like literally 6 times into it. Like, we had it like probably 2 times into it.
But when you're at that level, there are like infinite possibilities of what could be the best take. It's like everything is so great. Like,
Jimmy's.
That's the problem.
Anything he puts out is up. I'll listen to it. I'm not gonna say no. The fastest picking I've ever seen.
Yeah, I think
most delicious.
Ben and I have both said that it's you and Jimmy that are our ideal. Like, we want to hear this solo. Let's have Matt or Jimmy play it, and it will sound exactly like how our heads play it, that we could never actually do with our fingers.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm going to talk about the neurotic guitarist here for a moment, because we got funding for this show now. So I would like to get some of the people in the room that are on Lost Symphony, because I want to understand what it's like to get the pandas in the cage together.
The neurotic guitarist got funding? Did we get anything?
And by funding, I mean I got my David Ellison coffee for free.
You're right.
You know what I mean? Like, which if you haven't got the Ellison roast in peace, like that shit is so fucking delicious. David Ellison. But I want to get you guys in the same room. I want to get Jimmy Bell. I want to get Kelly. I want to get Matt.
That would be
because
phenomenal.
I would love to have you guys, because the thing is like, it's funny to watch you guys online because you all marvel at each other's techniques. Because like Jimmy will be like, "Oh, I can't do anything that Matt does," and then you're like, "Why would you need to do anything that I do? He does it the hard way, and he does it even faster than me." And then Kelly's just like, wow, look at these guys. This is really great. But still plays
still
faster
students.
and more meticulously like accurate than like a fucking robotic machine and with feel still. But it's like he is like the perfect, like if you were to, it's obnoxious. You guys are all obnoxious. And I want to understand as the neurotic guitarist what makes you guys so good, because I honestly, when we started this, and Cory can speak to this, we didn't, like, people would say like, what makes the greatest guitarist? And there's so many different things to me now that I respect in guitar players, but one of the things that you possess and Kelly possesses and Jimmy possesses and Joey Concepcion possesses, and certainly Siobhán, is you guys are all able just to fucking pull out musical brilliance out of your fucking assholes. Just at all times.
That should be the byline on the Lost Symphony record.
And even Paul. Like Paul, like he's like Shannon Larkin was marveling at his ability to play. Like, if I practiced this so long, like Paul didn't practice it at all.
Yeah,
not at all. Not even that day did he practice it. Maybe 3 takes he practiced it before that. And you guys are all able. Like Siobhán is like 1 take wonders. Like she's just like, oh, this one, that one, that one, that one. What time do we have to go out for food?
Yeah, if there's one thing that Lost Symphony and knowing all of you guys has like really brought to light, it's that you get really jaded about shredders and like people that just are 100% like technique, and like it doesn't impress you anymore when you hear players that actually have that musicality that to bring out the notes in a way that actually matters instead of just as many as they can fit into a second, which Jimmy Bell can fit a lot of notes into 1 second, but they're all
tasty,
really
really
well placed.
The greatest testament to Jimmy Bell's ability is we play with so many people on this record, but every time I play our songs in whatever form, mix or master, to Paul, our drummer, it's like the first time for him. And he always looks at me, he goes like, who's this? Who's this? But every time Jimmy Bell is like, who's that? And I'm just like, dude, it's fucking Jimmy Bell. Oh yeah, I should know that. And then like we'll be like 9 more minutes because we listened to a test printing of chapter 3 the other day. Who's that? It's Jimmy Bell, dude. Oh, who's that? It's Jimmy Bell! Every time. Like, and I've played him the same songs for 17 years, like 6 years. I don't know. A long time.
Jimmy's the only wah pedal on all these records, right?
Wah pedal, but he has a ferociousness also.
No, it's not a crutch for him, but I'm just saying, I think that like
he's not a Kirk Hammett.
Yeah. I can only imagine Matt
with
with wah
eggs
pedal.
and Benedict and ham. Not with the et.
Yeah. Remember the first time seeing videos of him, and I was like, well, I should probably go practice some more.
I think I showed them to you.
I don't think my metronome goes
We were
that
in the
fast.
studio, and I remember specifically saying, okay, man, I think I found somebody that has scared me officially more than any other human being in my entire life. And he plays like these Brian Setzer-esque, strange, like cowboy, fucking country shred, like riffs.
Yeah.
Like to a metronome, like in his fucking bedroom, quietly.
At like 4 a.m.
And they're like bursts of notes, 5 notes, 4 notes, like Rusty Cooley, like eat your fucking heart out shit. And he's just like going up and down, and like his fingers are like a blur, a fucking blur. And he's like, sorry for my sloppiness or something like.
Yeah.
And you think he's not being facetious. He really doubts the fact that he's Highlander. There can only be one.
Yeah, when he was trying to pick my brain about sweep picking, I'm like, why? You don't need to.
Dude, he should just pick it the way he does it.
Yeah, he picks every note faster than I could ever legato any line I ever thought of. So, and it just goes to show, like, once again, it's that style plus styles like Matt's and Kelly's that make Lost Symphony this unique thing.
But Ulrich Wilde brought up a good point, though, that you're picking, your tone is in your picking hand, and Jimmy, like, and he's a lefty, so like, there's something about like being the devil's son, and and not being forced to play the other way. And that guy has gone through, by the way, more as a neurotic guitarist, he posts more amazing vintage lefty guitars that are worth so much money. You fucking dumbass, Jimmy Bell. What the fuck are you doing getting rid of gold top 60s
like that.
fucking lefties? No, he's amazing. He's like he's the nicest person in the world.
We're gonna see Matt leave the frame and then pop into Ben's studio.
By the way, Mandy, his wife, is the great. Like, she's a nurse, like just like saving lives and like going and inoculating people and vaccinating, whatever the word is. I don't know. She's amazing. She's like doing these like all day, 24-hour fucking things. But Jimmy Bell is a fucking saint. But with that finger, with that picking hand, whatever hand, the other
We're
hand,
at the point in the episode where you're on a rant and you're screaming.
The fucking left hand, dude. You know from the first note, because he does these arpeggios. From the first note, he comes in, even when he's playing that stuff, you could hear the pick.
Jimmy's amazing, and you have a film strip running through your head, and we're getting like 1 out of every 12 frames.
Yeah, exactly. So let's bring it back down. Yeah, but anyways, exactly.
Siobhán's disturbed.
If anyone remembers,
I'm not disturbed. I'm just.
Matt,
I do.
That's
a good movie.
Yeah. Why don't we get back to Matt? Like, why don't you talk just about the Lost Symphony process? You know, that's kind of. You know, that's, I think, the pinnacle of like your ability to let loose, I think, at least recently, right? As far as your projects
well, that's the
go.
funny thing is I look back at some of these, because we recorded some of these so long ago. I was like, wow, I sucked. I was like, oh no.
It has been
like,
a process. So
I
think about that too, like the amount of stuff that has changed in between like the first and the last, experience.
Well, the biggest bummer is when we started, we didn't think it was going to be anything that big. And now like, a few years later, it's like, oh, we probably should have like actually tried to like get those mics into position. And, I kind of wish I tuned my bass. No,
yeah, it was a lot of like, especially with some of the funny thing is obviously the tracks have been pulled from different years, so they're a little shuffled. Mm-hmm. But like hearing stuff from when I first started recording with you guys and being like just cringing listening to this, I'm like, oh no. Like,
well, the thing that's crazy is that this is the only project that has so much, like, so many good players doing so much cool stuff that like we genuinely forget amazing solos.
Yeah,
because we get some stuff just like sent to us, and like we
Kelly.
hear it really quickly. Yeah, and like a guy like Kelly, he'll be like, "Dude, I sent you that solo," and we'll hear it like 3 o'clock in the morning, be like, "That's amazing." Go back to sleep and never get the fucking WeTransfer file, and then be like, "Well, maybe we need to do something there." And then it's like, "Holy shit, that was fucking amazing!" Because this record was done so many different times, and I gotta say hats off, because the most amazing thing that Cory did, other than just, I guess, probably just get rid of all the drums, was make everything sound consistent from song to song. Because this literally
there's no drums in Lost Symphony,
like jazz. Like, okay, so if recording was like jazz,
okay, wait, Ben, we're gonna lose everyone. What are you talking about?
Lost Symphony is like to mix, because it's like musical surprise.
Wow.
Just disclaimer, there's drums on the record. I promise there's drums. I did not delete the drums.
Can confirm.
But yes, Lost Symphony was recorded over several years, and the 3 records are a combination pulled from all different times in that era to make sure it was a cohesive, flowing kind of order.
Like how Kill Bill was filmed.
Kind of.
Sure.
Kind of like
I was going to say, I think I was like 22, 23 when I recorded the first couple solos with you guys. So it's been a bit.
2 years ago.
That's amazing. Yeah. No, I feel the same
too. 2 years ago, you're making me out to be like I'm 12. Come on, man.
No, but I think, I feel like my musicianship has developed over the course of the albums that we've done. So it's interesting to hear them, in order.
I have to say that there's something that you're very similar to Jimmy on. I'm going to call it out on this record. So on Decomposing Composers, which, by the way, if anyone wants to hear Matt and Siobhán go off musically, like literally, like, I don't want to say a case of the notes because I can't make fun of Vivaldi or Schubert because
or Beethoven.
Or whoever it was.
Yeah, I was told it was Beethoven the whole time.
They're all really good.
I was cursing his name for a while.
But Siobhán, especially with Paganini, I was saying to Cory last night, it's so funny that Siobhán is so relaxed and chill, because when you listen to the way that she, I don't know, did you call it bows during Paganini's Fifth Caprice? I'm like, you sound like an angry person. You and Jimmy both have this ferociousness. You're like, you have to get there. You have to get there, but it's meticulously in time.
She may have been an angry person, because I think that was like 2 days before I had to deliver the masters, and she's like, I'm going to do this.
the frenetic energy that you, for
There
which
was a lot of
you
panic
play.
in the process.
But I'm saying it's like something you would have heard from Jason Beckner off Shrapnel, the energy, and then you meet you're like, oh yeah, hey, how are you? Oh, no, welcome to Miami. It's fine. Now this restaurant's really good. And it's like I'm like,
The panic is
holy
all behind
shit.
closed doors.
Siobhán, we're gonna have to teach you how to rip doors off hinges. I'm telling you, it's a great stress reliever. It's also very expensive, so I wouldn't 100% advise it. But
Yeah.
What are we talking about?
Breaking
doors off
and
hinges.
shit. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I got to work on my strength a little bit. I'm not sure I'm there yet.
we'll get you there.
All right.
But anyways, what I was trying to get to before we dove down this lovely Lost Symphony, whatever wormhole, I wanted to hear Matt's opinion on kind of
Not Ben's opinion.
his approach to coming into a project
Kidding.
like this, obviously, and how it's developed over the years, and maybe the difference between your first session with Us Idiots versus your last session with Us Idiots, and how maybe how that has changed over time.
I
Yes,
think
how has it changed?
Then shut the fuck up.
Cory beat me to it.
he did it.
Yeah.
He did it, everybody. Look at that.
Thanks for listening enough, Matt, or you know that this is like a pivotal moment. It's like Bob Barker being like, I got one in, Rob.
I feel like you expect it at this point. You're just like pushing until one of us says it. So Cory beat me to the punch.
You know, I've been waiting for this. I'm like, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen on this episode. But yeah, I mean, going from first tracking, and is it you asking more so of like compositionally, or just thinking
just your experience, man? What was it like? Writing, being in studio, doing all that.
Well, with Lost Symphony in particular, it was one of those things like where there were these weird modulations, but having to play at that speed and, trying to be conscious of being tasteful and not just like musical masturbation, because, that's a thing. So just kind of thinking more so like, all right, so here's, I have this little shred bit that I want to throw in. This is something I'm happy with, but I want to have something that ties that into the next section and, it make it cohesive enough where it sounds like, oh, this was something he thought about, not just, all right, we press record and went for it.
But hold on, in your defense, when you first came down, you're like, cool, I think this works. And then I'd be like, yeah, do a harmony to it. You'd be like, wait, what do you want me to like? And then, but you like Rain Man would be like, okay. And then you go back and listen to it and fucking come up with the perfect harmony. But like the next time you came down, you're like, you already like anticipated the harmonies. You're like, and you would just fucking like watching you play was like, It was a pleasure to you because it's like literally like you, every time you're like, I'm going to get smarter. I'm going to get better. And you're like the fucking, you're like the artificial intelligence. And you're like, how is your day, Cory? Is everything all right? Is it 73 degrees? Do you feel temperate?
Siobhán, do you want to take this?
Yeah, you just learn to anticipate the workflow. That's what I'll say.
Yeah,
I thought you were going to tell Ben to shut the fuck up.
Oh yeah, I knew where
that
Cory was
too.
going with that, but that's separate. I was gonna say with all this too, and then seeing like just more and more monster players getting involved and trying to be like, all right, so the bar's pretty high. I should probably write something that I just don't. You don't want to be the low man on the totem pole with
That's
one
true.
of these type of albums.
Is that a challenge as far as like you want to obviously show your ability, but at the same time you don't want to be the guy that's just once again like just fitting in as many notes as you can.
Yeah, you blow
and
your
you
load
become
with,
forgettable.
Like, look at all these notes I just played. You're like, yeah, but why?
Right.
Right.
So how do you approach something like that?
Honestly, the direction from you guys was great because it was one of those things where I'm like, there's so many directions you can go with these pieces because a lot of times the sections I would get were pretty wide open. It wasn't too much going on where you'd have to think of like, oh, is this going to create like too much chaos, or does it need a flowing melodic line here rather than like, let's, pick it up and, burn through this one passage. I think like one of the best examples of that was actually one that me and you did, was a Conflagration, where we were thinking, oh, we had these melodic lines from my first take of one of those that we used as like the transitional sections, we'll call it. And
yeah,
then,
that was a good example
like,
of something that
yeah.
we were, I think it was one of the first ones we did with you. And maybe a week before we had to deliver the record, I think I sent out like a mix,
In
and you're
true
like,
Lost Symphony
dude,
form.
no. You're like,
I was like, you can't put that out.
You can't
No one
put
can
that
hear
out.
this.
And like, you.
By the way, there's been so many people, so many guitar players that have even played on the record that they're like, who is that did that crazy thing in that song? I'm like, Conrad. They're like, no, the other guy. I'm like, really?
The other guy.
I've always been
Really?
the other
Matt's
guy.
the other
Next
guy.
to no, but like, come on,
I'm the
man.
guy in the
Conrad
shadows.
Simon is a fucking weird.
No.
Like, he's like a fucking demon sent from outer
So
space.
that's actually, that's a
fucking
great
murder you.
track. If you haven't checked out Lost Symphony, first of all, what the hell? Like, why are you watching us? That's the only reason we're here.
Right, how did you find
Please
us?
check out Lost Symphony. Check out Conflagration off of Chapter 2. It's one of my favorite tunes, and it's got
super, yeah,
some of the
super
most
cool,
the
energetic.
opening 8 seconds with Conrad is some of the most intense music that's on any of the
Yeah.
records. But then Matt comes in with something that answers Conrad's insanity in an incredibly musical way, and that's kind of what we're talking about right now. You can continue.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was one of those things where I actually did that first take through the one that I was like, we need to scrap this completely. That was that was actually me and Ollie together, believe it or not. Benny, I think, was he had to run to the gym at that time.
Of course, middle of a session, why not?
I mean, look at those, yeah, look at those
Symphony
guns. Look at that muscle shirt. The muscles come tomorrow,
He
or
had to.
no, I love you. But so
Oh my God.
Cory was out that day, so it was me, Benny, and Ollie in the studio. I got out. I took the day off of work, and we ended up just the two of us kind of working through.
Wait, so was Ollie engineering you?
Yes, that actually happened.
Does no one
So
remember I was
Benny
left by
showed-
myself with Pro Tools, which I've never used before, to engineer myself?
This doesn't surprise me.
Ben's got shit to do. Can't be engineering this entire.
He's like, all right, you seem like you've got this.
Hey, you flew across the country. You could do this too. Why not? I gotta go answer this email.
He had to go get shredded at the gym, so he's like, "Hey, press this button and then this button," and Ollie was like, "I can do that." So we had a bunch of takes of me just being like, "I don't know what's going on right now," and he's like, "I think it's recording," and I'm like, "All right, cool." And then he ended up pulling up a bunch of King Diamond solos. He's like, "Do something like this," and I was just like, "I don't think that's what this needs, but okay."
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, he's like, you know who you remind? He's like, every so often would just be like, that reminds me of George Lynch. And I was like, okay, like cool. And it was just little moments like that. Like that was, again, trying not to be a huge nerd in that whole time frame too. To be like, can I touch your beard? Like, don't be weird. Like, dial it back. Dial it back. He doesn't need to know that you're just like, look at this guy that I'm playing with right now. So, yeah, I mean, we had a great time that session, but it was definitely a trash solo.
If I let you touch my beer, will you give me free hockey tickets?
So yeah,
He
I
totally
think-
would have. He
if I
would have
get
been
to
like
touch
that. If
your
you'd been
beer.
like, if you had asked Ollie, like, can I touch your beer? He'd be like, can I get free hockey tickets? Like that would be
Yeah,
like
you can come
because he
see
was
my men's league game that
he was
no one shows
pleasantly
up
weird,
for.
man. But he didn't mind making the ask if you were gonna make the ask, and I like that. There
Oh,
were
yeah.
times where you're like, wow, he actually went for the ask on that.
I would have definitely had him down. It would have been hilarious to see him at a rink.
Oh
He
my
would have
God.
too. He would have shown up in all
Just
black.
Ollie watching.
All
And
All
it's like a
black,
giant
sitting in the
flare
bleachers.
black pants, whatever. Like just like, hey man, like where do I sit? Like talking like a mom and her child, like as they're like all
no,
scared.
I want
He's
him
like,
on the bench. I'd want him coaching. It'd be hilarious.
oh, you want me to sit
Just
over here?
Ollie telling me, yeah, just do that. It'd be great.
Yeah, well, no. The funny thing is though, is he would be like lost trying to find you, and he'd be like, wait, so where's Matt? And you see this 6'4" dude with his hair like just going around like Gandalf, and he'd be like, where is he? And then just wave to him, and he's like, oh my god, as he's having a heart attack because Ollie was socially awkward.
So this all
he
comes
was the
back
best.
down to the Lost Symphony experience being Matt and I getting ditched by you in the studio.
Thank you for letting me use your BMW at like 3:00 in the morning.
And I feel bad. I had a full-time job at this time, so I couldn't even like. You guys would be like, Siobhán's flying in for the week. We're gonna record like 12 songs, and I'd be like, well, I work from like 9 to 6, and then I have an hour commute, and I'd get there. You guys would be exhausted from working all day, and I would like comp some stuff, and then I'd be like, well, I'm gonna go home because I got to work in the morning. Siobhán would have like a breakdown in the back drinking.
That was I was working a regular
and I'd be like,
job.
Paul, hey, do you want to meet Siobhán? And he'd be like, are you guys coming to Taunton? I'd be like, no.
Yeah. So
My favorite moments were Brian coming over, though, and then there would always be some explosion.
Oh,
Wait,
yeah.
Yeah,
Ben and Brian fights are
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And
wonderful.
I don't even know what story to choose. What about
wisely.
how I tracked a song all day and then Brian lost the stems?
Oh no.
He put it in the trash. He worked out of like the download file instead of actually taking it out of the download folder. And then when it got deleted, he was like, I did the whole song. And it's like, no, well, where is it? He's like, I don't know. And I tried calling him because Jeff Loomis was going to play on it. And he was like, well, I'm going, like, Jeff had like a very small period of time because he was working on like an album and totally indulging us by being on it. He's like, well, I got to go like through the woods of like Washington where he lives. Like, so I'm going to be like incommunicado. So can I get this other song? And I'm like, Brian, we need to do this song. And I called him at like 10 o'clock at night and he got so mad at me. He's like, me and my wife don't want to talk to you. I'm like, dude, you lost no eggs. He's like, no, I didn't. And then it's like, dude, like after it's like, and like later, like when the video came out, it's like, this song's awesome. I'm like, dude, you didn't even want this song to be made. Cause like I called him and he's like, I don't even know who Jeff Loomis is. I don't care. Fuck this song. I have a kid. I have a baby. I have a baby sleeping. Why would you ever do this to me, you selfish prick?
Listen, this entire project is run by us. And there's been plenty of those times where some people's solos didn't get sent through WeTransfer, didn't get downloaded, maybe it didn't make it to the record until after it came out, and they're like, hey, where's my solo? You know, things like that happen. You know, sometimes, like, I'm not going to
almost panic moment for this upcoming album when I was like, where's the second half of my solo?
Oh yeah. So let's give a shout out to 3 Years Gone. If Matt hadn't been here recording some country pop music and I showed him like a mix and he's like, hey, half my solo's missing. And then I have to go, Ben, can you send me that other half of the solo?
But can we ask a question?
The only part of that solo that I actually really was proud of was gone.
Hold on a second. But do we also, I felt like I also had the Mandela effect. Like, again, I thought Shazam got made. There were parts of the songs I'm like, Cory, didn't I record the rhythm guitars for that song? You're like, no, I'm thinking of this. I'm like, no, dude, I remember I was wearing green shoes and it was a Friday. He's like, no, dude, you're just making that up. I'm like, no, I did the guitars. He's like, well, where are they? And I go back to my like place where it must have been. And I'm like, it was the Berenstain Bears?
Yes. Yeah, moral
the
of the
Mandela
story.
effect.
It's
Google
a freaking miracle that these records are even released. Is the point?
Paul doesn't even remember making them. Every time I play him, he's like, "I'm on this. Am I on this song? This is the one I'm on. There's no drums in this one. This is called Acceptance." He's like, "Oh, but there's like rhythms in it. Like those are programmed. Cory did that."
It's like every time we do the interview videos and I have to ask Cory, I'm like, wait, what happened in this song? Do you remember anything about this experience? My brain has expelled it.
So this has been your peek behind the curtain episode of 2020.
I can name all the songs and all the records anymore.
Of the chaos
behind Lost Symphony.
Matt, thank you for being part of that chaos. I think you played a huge part in the overall level of chaos, in a good way. Chaos of notes, I should say. As we wrap up our second hour, definitely want to give a shout out to the new band 3 Years Gone, at 3 Years Gone Music, if you're going to follow them. I don't know where, if that's Instagram or whatever it is, but you guys gave me a card.
Instagram, Facebook, all of those
does things,
social media things. Yeah.
Obviously Lost Symphony, you're all over it. Some of the tastiest solos in the record. We won't even tell you which ones, but if you buy the record, you can look inside the booklet and find out which ones.
I'm going to guess that right now he's going to be on Jackson, because I don't know if everyone in the world doesn't know, but speaking as the neurotic guitarist, you were one of the greatest ambassadors of the Jackson Charvel brand in the history of fucking mankind. Woo. You have so many guitars. You literally, like, there's been so many times, because I have 170 guitars. I've like handed you like a Les Paul or like a Fender. You're like, bro, I'm playing this Charvel. It's Japanese. It's all I fucking need. It's got a Floyd. Fuck off. And like literally, you are the most brand loyal. And if Jackson or Charvel are watching, like if there's any human being that first off has bought enough and deserves just in Campbell points a fucking free like custom shop guitar, it's Matt. But Matt, as also a challenge to you from now, Jackson has said that on Mondays, Metal Mondays, that they will repost Lost Symphony, i.e. anyone who wants to play a Jackson guitar, maybe like you, since you seem to have a few Charvels and Jackson products in your house, you should encourage them by putting out this shred, which as by now, chapter 3 will be rolling out. People can go and see. And you guys should comment on it. And you should let Jackson know, because there should be a Matt LaPierre Jackson.
Amen.
Matt, if there was a Matt LaPierre Jackson as the neurotic guitarist, I'm asking you this.
Sure thing.
What design it for me? Bring me through this porn in my head. Tell Charvel, tell Jackson.
So
first off, would it be a Jackson or a Charvel?
Jackson.
Well, which one would it be if we had to choose?
I'd probably go Charvel, honestly, just because they're.
Are we talking American or Japanese?
American.
Okay, so we're American Charvel. Are we in Ontario, Canada right now? So what's going on?
It's probably one of the Pro Mod series, but I'd spec it out with, a beautiful, easy there, Chief. Probably spec it out with some just like natural wood grain. Prefer that on any guitar just because
wait. What kind of wood?
I don't know yet. I haven't decided. You just put me on the spot.
Maple? Maple cap over mahogany? Are we talking
maybe a maple cap?
Crotch mahogany? Fiddleback mahogany? Ribbon mahogany?
It'll be great. Believe me. Probably
24 frets, 22 frets?
24, always 24 for me. I know Corey's a fan of the 22, but
are we talking a locking 24. System? Are we talking fixed bridge? Fixed bridge?
I'd probably go honestly fixed bridge at this point, because as much as I love having I don't use them nearly as much as I used to, and tuning stability is kind of crucial for any musician. So
you grew up.
Sure.
Are we going medium jumbo frets? Are we going small frets? Or like we're doing
jumbo frets?
Jumbo frets.
Definitely roasted maple neck, because that's
like Music Man style, or like old Kramer.
Like these, they're super duper comfortable, and they're super duper thin, so they make playing easier. I have those, cinder block hands, as we've mentioned, so anything to make that less difficult for me.
Well, what about a baritone scale?
No, thank you.
You could get like a bucket head, the 27-inch scale, and in the cowboy position, you literally have to have like a huntsman spider, like Richard Shaw could do it. He could play like a normal, like solo in normal.
The PRS guy though, they already got the baritones. He deserves.
Yeah, but not the 27-inch scale, man. Like that's crazy. I don't know. I mean, that's insane. That guitar,
maybe from
it's like Andre the Giant.
It was a 7-string. I'd absolutely do that.
All right,
maybe make it a 7-string. I know a
7-string
with that. Yeah, we've actually. When's the last time you heard a 7-string on a pop country song?
You're gonna.
Yeah, you will.
What would you do? What would you do? Like honestly, like how would you approach if someone said to you, "Hey man, here's 4 chords. I'm gonna go and write this pop country song. We got Siobhán playing some fiddle. We need you to play this. We need you to play the 7-string. What do you do?
Just find a riff that fits within those chords, man. And then something to complement the bass parts. Like that's because Corey's been playing bass on most of this too. So he's got the 5-string.
You know what I found out this week is that a lot of bluegrass players play baritone tuned to A standard, because you can do a lot of really, really cool, like lower piano chord style stuff. So that like, actually they're like, that's a thing. Like, I didn't know that was a thing. So like, yeah, you can get like
it's more for layering than anything else.
Yeah.
It's not like it's
just like,
the
well,
7-string
you
is
can
not
get those high guitars that, like for cowboy chords and stuff like that out for a lot of, but the baritone acoustic guitars are really cool, because it really brings out like a different, it's so different to hear how things sound in different registers.
It's like the viola.
We definitely had some fun with that. Yeah, exactly. It's just another tool to have.
Or the double bass.
Yeah, but like I said, Corey's been really good with orchestrating that stuff too. Just being like, hey, simplify everything you just did, make it fit within the mix.
Yeah, he just puts a high pass filter on it.
Some stuff.
Yeah. Sure. But I mean, if anything, just make another. I don't want to step on Angel's toes, but another 7-string Charvel hardtail. That's not, the Nola.
But what would be different about it, Matt? Like, why would Charvel want to make this guitar over just
more of
Angel's
a
guitar?
Meat and potatoes, less frills, very straightforward. Maybe some coil splitting, but
straightforward. What are you trying to say with that?
Not going there.
No,
not going.
We
there.
don't.
What do you mean?
What a good place to
anyway,
end the
right.
episode.
What side dots? Or can we do shark fins on our Charvel?
Yeah, sure. We'll do all that. But anyway, the other project I wanted to mention, I know Corey and I had touched on it too. My producer buddy, and actually he was with that gospel band, phenomenal bass player, AJ Seeley. We're working on it's very 80s.
Yes.
It's super
Nice.
80s. Also has a 7-string on it. It's pretty much like every video game soundtrack you can imagine with like, it's if you think of like racing in general, it's that kind of vibe. I don't know if it's actually getting used for a video game or whatever the project is, but he hit me up and was like, hey, I want you to play a lot of notes on this. And I said, okay.
Yeah.
So
it's a good track. What's the name it's being released under? Do you know?
I think it's under his whole brand. So it's AJ Seeley, but I think the track's called Final Lap. So
Good
that
stuff.
should be, we'll finish that up. I think so. It'll be this Friday. It'll probably be out by the time, this episode airs.
So
but
check the description of this episode. Anything we talked about, if it's out, there'll be links for it. Matt, thank you, man.
Yeah,
It's been a
thank you so
pleasure.
much. This was so fun.
glad to be here.
We had some good laughs about the
Thank
Lost
you for
Symphony
staying
experience.
a while.
Look at that callback.
Ben's
There it
checked out.
2020-2020-d.com. Make sure you go there, like and subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss it on future episodes.
LostSymphony.com.
That is our
Listen to
sponsor.
Matt is amazing. I mean this from the bottom of my heart. It's such a pleasure working with you and having you to be able to actually say that you played with the people that you did, and like we talked about it like fictitiously, and then it became a thing, and that we actually manifested it, and that it was as good as we hoped, and that people they respected you because you are that good, and they gave us respect because of you. I tip my hat to you, sir. Thank you for helping us bring them into the spider's web.
Yeah, glad to be a part of it. Honestly, this has been
Both you and Siobhán
been
gave us
great.
the credibility for us, little guys, to con you into coming to my basement.
Again, people know who she is. I'm just the guy behind the curtain.
No, you're amazing. No, it's such a pleasure to be on the records with you and to get to know you. And you're such a great musician. It was great to get to know even more of you in these episodes. So
Yes. So buy chapter 3 and then go buy chapter 2 and then buy
Yes.
chapter 1.
Then buy 100 proof because that should be out at the same time.
Yes. And yes, 3 years gone. Here's a logo that I was given.
So
Oh,
there's
cool.
3 years
That's
gone.
one of the logos.
and chapter 3, not the German way, the American way.
and with that, you've been 2020.
And being on stage with that guy, nothing is scripted. So you got to be on your toes because he's going to do something different every night in every song.
Great. That's great.
I just like spend my time because I know the guitar parts by now, and I'm just looking at him and going, he's out of his fucking mind. But how brilliant! That's exactly what I want Billy Idol to be. He's not this one thing. He's not this. I've seen bands that kind of go through the motions and they kind of play the hits and they seem like they're a little bored of that. And I can tell you, man, it's not the case with Billy. He's the real deal, man. He's still passionate about it.